cord to this computer. Thanks, Mary Kate.
Yep.
There we go. And you both are in the room. If you're eating things, please make it kind of quiet. Thank you. So today we're going to talk about one of my very favorite movements in the entire Western canon, known as the Western repertoire, right? So this is the Adagietto from Mahler's Fifth Symphony. I first became acquainted with Mahler's Fifth Symphony when the Minnesota Orchestra did it as a season finale before the pandemic. And I had tickets Thursday morning, and I went, and I loved it so much, I thought, I have to go again on Friday night. And then Friday night, I went, oh, I think I have to go and see it Saturday. So I saw it 3 performances running, and I would have gone to a 4th if there had been one. It's such a phenomenal piece, and this movement is one of the most expressive pieces that exists. And I'm going to start off by playing some of it for you. And I happen to like the Bernstein recording. We're going to be looking at the score after we listen to it, but I think you have to listen to it so you get an idea. Sorry. So you had to hear the whole thing to get an idea of how the piece works. What kind of a piece is it? What is he trying to express? Do you think? Noah and Kevin, you're the ones here. You're signed on. Yeah. What did you get out of the piece?
It's like dramatic, basically. Mostly all in a lot of string stuff. Um, um,
How many big moments are there?
Like two.
Two.
It felt
Two.
very-
And at the end, you kind of feel like he's going to wind it down, but he goes for one more high spot before he lets it go. Now, is it just calm, Noah or Kevin, or is there something more there?
Mm. Is it just call? Is that what you said?
Calm, C-A-L-M.
No, it feels very bittersweet and longing in some way.
Longing. I feel like this embodies longing. And the interesting thing when we look at the score is the way he gets at that longing is through the non-harmonic tones, which neither of you came to that discussion, right? That's okay. We're still going to look at it. And what I was amazed by when I first looked at it was how many of them there are within 2 pages. It's a compendium. Adagietto from the Fifth Symphony, and you should be able to see it on your screen at this point. And here you can see everything that's going on. Now, what key is it in? Did it feel like it was in major or minor? Major. Yeah, so what major key is this? F. Now, you all read viola clef, right, Kevin and Noah? Well, this is middle C here. This is A. This is A. This is G. This is C. This is A. This is C, A, C, C, A, C, A, C, C, A, C, A, C. And we have C, D, E. We do not have any Fs in the first 2 measures, right? I think he's actively avoiding it. And what he does at the end of the second measure, if you look at the 2 viola parts, what have they done with each other? Voice exchange. They traded notes. Why would Mahler do that?
stop the phone.
Right. And what does he have at the end? It says Adagietto as a title, but the beginning says sehr langsam. Do you know what that means? Sehr is very, and langsam is slowly. So he's got Adagietto in Italian at the top, then we have German, sehr langsam, then we have Italian, molto rit, right? So I think it makes it possible for them to do a very liquid bow change and to have enough bow to hold that quarter note for a long time. And one of the reasons I love the Bernstein recording is he does that molto rit like nobody else's business. He drags that out for a long time, right? And then we get to the third measure and we have an F in the basses, pizzicato. So it doesn't last. We have C in the cellos, A in a viola, C in a viola, C in the second violin, F in the harp, which is in a way pizzicato, right? But the first violins, erste is first, zweite is second, as you could probably guess. And the the violins, violas are divisi. Violen as opposed to violinen, right? The plurals in Italian. So you got to know Italian and German for Mahler. So we've got this E here. I need my drawer, and I want it to be. Oh, purple sounds good. Actually, yeah, purple sounds good. So this note here, he is delaying the F, right? Now, the E was a note from the measure before that resolves up by step after the down beat. Do you know what we would call that? Nope. And an appoggiatura is a note you leap to. This one, I wonder what colors it'll let me have. We'll see. This one here, I can have green or blue or black. I'll just keep it blue. This is called, it's sort of like a suspension because the note is retained from the previous measure. And the previous measure almost sounds like an A minor chord, right? Because we've got C and A and there's the E. We haven't heard the F yet, right? So this is a held over note. It's resounded, but it's still held over, and it resolves upward. If it resolved downward, it would be called a suspension, but when it goes up, it is called a retardation. Okay? Makes sense? Now, the harp notes in the third measure are all in what chord? This is just like reading the piano. F major. And the second, well, the first violins go to the F, second violins have C, first violas have C, second violas have A, cellos have C that's held over, bass is pizzicato, the F. So this is definitely an F chord. So our next chord tone, non-chord tone, is what note? It's still in that measure.
B flat.
The B flat, right? Right here. And this is one that is leapt up to and then resolves in the opposite direction by step. What is that one called? This is your one, Noah. The one you leap to.
Okay, I didn't. That is.
Yes, that is an appoggiatura. And you can remember how to spell it if you just say to yourself, every time you say appoggiatura, 2 P's, 2 G's. I've said that more than once. Okay, so that is an appoggiatura, and it's on a stronger beat than the resolution because it's on beat 4, the resolution is on the end of 4. The appoggiatura is always a strong beat, non-harmonic tone, as is the suspension, and yeah, those are the two that are always strong beat ones. Okay, then our next chord. So look at the harp first. At first it's just C, G, C, G, C. And then it goes to an F. That's kind of crazy. And in the strings we have C, C, D, F, C. I'm not wrong here, am I? D, F, C. Which is kind of a crazy chord, isn't it? But it has no A in it, does it? Regardless. And it could be that it's a double suspension, the D and the F over the C, right? Possibly. But where's our really prominent non-chord tone that we know is not a chord tone that resolves to what seems to be a chord tone? Yes. And that one is repeated from the measure before and then resolves down by step. So what kind is that? Yes. And then the D here, because we could call this one a non-chord tone as well, because it definitely rubs against all those C's, doesn't it? And we leap up to it and we resolve it down by step. So that guy would be a positive, right? Another one, right? The C seems to fit. And the F is kind of crazy, isn't it? I'm not sure what I would call that F. It's a really amazing tone that is leapt to and left by left. But we definitely have a C chord, so it could be an escape tone, just like that. Escape tones I don't expect you to know because they aren't as common, but they do happen. And it's the one non-harmonic tone that is left by leap. And I think we'd all agree that one leaves by leap. Oh, and we have another non-chord tone in this measure. We're only in measure 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We already have 5 non-harmonic tones. And what's our next one or 2, depending on what you think of that chord there? Actually, the chord kind of changes, doesn't it? Because we have the bass changing here. And then our D and F work. G and B and D and F with a C held over. Could be a G7 chord, right? Could be. Because the harp has quit playing its C chord. So at that point, we might circle this one if we think it's a G7. And this is one of those spots where you could talk to music theorists and they would probably all come up with something different. So what kind is this, William? You know this one. Passing tone. That is the most common kind of non-harmonic tone. It's the least expressive of them, right? At least one of those notes is a passing tone. Has to be, right? Because we have too many steps. And then we had an F chord here, right? F. We know this one is F major. And then we get over here and it's kind of a C chord, kind of. And here we have maybe a G7. And then what do we have at the beginning of measure 5? What are all these notes? And we're going to have 2 chords, aren't we? So I see A, C, C, F, C, A, C, F, C.
Major for the conversion or something?
Yeah, well, it's an F over A, which is first inversion. When we hear the A, we might perceive it as that 1/6, right? We could. We might also feel like it's going to A. But then, okay, he goes to A flat. And now we have F, A flat, C, right? And C, C, F. F, A flat, C is what chord? F minor over A flat. So he's already making color things. And if we're considering this one an F minor, I want to move it slightly, over A flat, then what non-chord tone do we have? This measure does not have so many non-chord tones. It has one. And what is it? Which one are we missing? Yeah, and the D is what kind? C, D, C. William knows this one, but Kevin, you should know this one. When you go from C up to D back to C, what's that? Neighbor tone. A neighbor tone. So at this point, on the first page, 5 measures into the piece, we have used every non-harmonic tone on this sheet that is in the Google Drive if you want to look at it, except the anticipation in 5 measures. If you want to express yearning, you want to use non-harmonic tones, let me tell you. And my favorite note. And so here we have the C that's a chord tone. The chord tone is held over here. What is the chord in the first part of measure 6? G, G, D, F, D, F, F, D, G, G7. And that points out one non-chord tone, right? Do you see where it is? This is the only note that doesn't fit. And our last note of the previous measure was that C, which was a chord tone. We repeat it, we resolve it down by step. Therefore, that is another suspension, right? And we expect this G7, where do we expect it to go? Where does G7 go? Usually? To C, it's a 5-7, right? Or you could possibly get to B minor if you call it a German 6th, right? But Mahler does this crazy thing. He changes the color of the G7 chord to what kind of chord? G minor 7. This is one of the beautiful moments in this piece too. Let me tell you, when you get that B flat right about there. And then there is the oddest and most beautiful tone that he does here. The violas are going from D to C sharp to C natural. Do you know what that's called? D, C sharp, C natural. Kevin? Chromatic passing tone. And when you hear that tone, that C sharp against the G minor 7, it is utterly remarkable. Yeah, and we could keep going, but what I want to do is, now that we analyzed that, we're going to listen again, but I'm going to keep this up so you can see this. I've got to go play it, but I'll bring this right back. We have to pull this baby back to the beginning. And then I'm going to escape this so that I can go to... There's your first one. Second one. You hear that D and the F just kind of hovering there. Now listen. Isn't that amazing, that C sharp? And do you hear the suspended tone? And he doesn't resolve it till there. Isn't that a glorious piece of music? Makes me breathe. So I hope you enjoyed getting to know it a little better. Or I don't know if you had ever heard it before. Had you heard it, Noah?
I've heard it, yeah.
Yeah,
I walk.
not a lot. Kevin? Do you want to hear it again and again now? This is one of those things that some nights I just put on repeat and play it over and over again because I do love it. Well, thank you both for being